Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to episode 224 of the podcast. Are you joining us live on YouTube or possibly Facebook? I don't know what's going on with the Facebook connection, but I think they're having some problems lately. Today is Saturday, January 16th, and we are coming off of the first card of 2021 UFC on ABC. Numero uno, Max Holloway against nobody. It's what it felt like. Max Holloway against Bob the Bob the punching bag. Anyway, before we get into any of that, let me introduce my co-host, all the way from Frosty, New Jersey, Jeff the Animal Wilson. Jeff, how you feeling on this Saturday evening, my friend?
Bill, I'm excited, man. You know, I'm stuck at home. I mean, who isn't nowadays? But Bill, we have so much action going on. It's NFL playoff season. We had our first fight card of the year this afternoon. I didn't realize it started at 3:00, so I missed the prelims. I did watch one of the prelims. But Bill, the entire main card was fantastic, dude. Like, if you didn't have time to watch this because, you know, you were, I don't know, at a farmer's market or something. I mean, there's not a lot of things to do right now. But go check out the main card. It was absolutely fantastic. What a way to kick off 2021, man.
There's a lot of people out there right now like, damn it, why did I go out to buy this cabbage? I could have been watching the fights. Why did I get all this fresh corn? I didn't need this. I should have been watching the fights. Yeah, you're right, man. This entire main card was awesome. What a way to kick off 2021. I think we immediately have a few contenders for fight of the year on the very first card. So you can't complain about that. Let's start at the top, shall we, with the dominance of the former champ, Max Blessed Holloway. Just, man, one judge had it 50-42. I think that's even being generous. Like, I don't know how you give Calvin Kattar, if you gave him like a point for every big shot that he landed, it wouldn't add up to 42.
Bill, I don't think it would add up to 2.
He did land a few shots. Like in the first round, he landed a couple 1-2s that, and Max's face was a little bit red at the end of the fight, but for the most part, Jeff, he fought like a teen mom. He just had no plan B.
Dude. Oh man.
He just stuck to the boxing, and he had nothing else. Like, the boxing wasn't working. He didn't try to clinch. He didn't go for a takedown. He wasn't cutting angles. He was moving straight in and moving straight back. And when he got hit, he was moving back. He was falling into the fence. He was shelling up there. He wasn't trying to throw any kicks. He threw like one head kick that whiffed really bad. But I mean, for the most part, when that 1-2 wasn't working, and he did hit Holloway with a couple of stiff jabs, but then he was trying to play this game where he was like feinting and setting traps with his hands. But Holloway wasn't flinching or biting on any of it. He just kept coming forward and was just so relentless. He just beat the piss out of Calvin Kattar, man. I mean, this was the number 1 contender against the number 6. It looked like, it looked like a UFC fighter against somebody showing up to the gym for like their first few months on a free trial. It was that one-sided. And, you know, Calvin Kattar's a bad motherfucker. I don't mean to put him down, but that's how this fight looked. I mean, maybe he had an off night. Maybe he was flat. You know, maybe it was, the first fight in Abu Dhabi, all the quarantines, everything like that. You could chalk it up to any number of things. But, I mean, there's no denying that Max Holloway was on tonight. More so than maybe we've ever seen him. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's probably the best volume striker in the history of the UFC. with this performance, I think he solidified that. He already leads the UFC in significant strikes landed by a pretty solid margin. And he made it even bigger tonight. Give me your thoughts on this main event here, Jeff.
Dude, I agree with you 100%. You're saying that that Kattar didn't have a plan B. I don't think he had a plan A, dude. I mean, I'm being completely honest here. He just had no answers for Holloway's output. And, maybe it's because I haven't seen Holloway fight in a while. Maybe it's because his last fight was the loss to Volkanovski, which, I think we kind of had that in question a little bit. But, dude, I almost forgot about how much Holloway puts out, and it's like that for 5 rounds. And Bill, you brought this up last week. That was the big question mark here was, can Calvin Kattar handle 5 rounds? He looked okay. I think it would have been fine against anybody else, but Holloway just had too much in his locker. It was like watching, like you said, like a pros versus Joes, man. I remember this one episode that had Kurt Angle take down all the Joes, and I think the winner was the person who got taken down the least.
I remember that show, Pros versus Joes. That was interesting. But yeah, I mean, Kurt Angle is an Olympic gold medalist. Like, he's gonna take down anybody in any given wrestling room. So forget about a person off the street. Yeah, and here's the problem, man. When what you do best doesn't work and you don't have that second best thing to go to, that's where you run into problems in this top 5. And it's unfortunate that a lot of guys will get this far. They'll get to that top 6, top 7, top 4 ranking. And they'll realize that upper echelon, it doesn't matter, because if you're a fantastic boxer like Calvin Kattar, with the exception of Max Holloway, I think Calvin Kattar can outbox anybody in this featherweight division still, even after seeing his performance tonight. But when you run into that one guy who can outbox you and you don't have anywhere else to go, like you can't get it to the ground, or you can't clinch, you can't dirty box, you can't kickbox, like that's a problem. Like you could be a better boxer than 90% of the division, 99% of the division even. But when you run into that one guy who's a better boxer than you and who can put out more volume than you can, that's going to be a big problem when you don't have that plan B. And then that's how you end up with a teen pregnancy. I don't know that I don't know that that's the case for Calvin Kattar. I haven't heard any confirmation that he's pregnant. But yeah, 2 judges, 50-43 for Holloway, and 1 judge 50-42. And I think that's even being generous. I think every round was easily a 10-8. I don't even know how the math adds up on that, but rounds 2 and 4 were easily 10-7 rounds. I think the fight could have been stopped after the second round. The corner could have thrown in the towel during the 4th round for sure. When Kattar could barely stand on his feet, it looked like he didn't even know where he was at one point. And yeah, he's still coming forward and still throwing big shots, but is that muscle memory or is that him still being in the fight? And then in that 5th round, Jeff, Holloway's having a fucking conversation with with the commentators. I don't know what he was saying because I don't watch with the volume on, but it looked like he was looking right at them and dodging punches at the same time. Like he was clearly not worried. You got to think, like, when he was taking those big elbows against the cage, like the corner should have at the very least have had the towel in their hand, like ready to throw it in. Like there was no chance he was coming back to win that outside of a big, way come from behind knockout. But when do you see Max Holloway get knocked out?
Yeah.
Like you have to realize when your fighter is not in it anymore and doesn't have a chance, and like save him to fight another day. Get him out of there, save a few brain cells, and recuperate and back to the drawing board or whatever you have to do. But credit to Calvin Kattar for hanging in there and taking a beating like that. I guess that's the one positive you can walk away from with this, is that he didn't get finished. But he also like wasn't present in this fight at all.
Yeah, dude. I don't know, man. Definitely some questions from the corner. I agree. I think definitely could have stopped that fight at the second round. I actually thought, excuse me, in the second round at the end of it, when the bell rang, I actually thought that was Herb Dean stopping it for a sec, because I had the volume a little bit low because I was watching the start of an NFL playoff game on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, dude, I actually thought that that was the end of the fight. And then when I saw the corner come in, I was like, oh man, they're gonna allow this to continue. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of thought so too. And there was a point at the third round too where I was just screaming at the TV, "Stop the fight!" And my daughter was sitting on the couch next to me, and she starts yelling, "Stop the fight!" Not because she knew what was going on; she was just echoing me. But I would like to say that even a 3-year-old knew that fight should have been stopped at some point. Like, Kattar was on autopilot, I think, from the end of the second round on. And credit to him for being so tough, but he took a lot of unnecessary punishment tonight that he didn't need to. But man, Max fucking Holloway, what a performance, man. And it's tough because what do you do with him now? This is the problem. I mean, selfishly, I still want to see him in that 155-pound division. I think his best chance to see another championship is that 145, but I think the more exciting matchups are at 155. There's nobody else to put him in there with. Ortega's fighting for the title. We already saw what he did to him. He obliterated him. And granted, Ortega looks like he's improved in the striking, but not to the point where he can stand with Max Holloway by any stretch. So we have Volkanovski and Ortega are going to fight for the title in March, I believe. Personally, I still want to see Holloway move to 155. I think there's so many fun matchups for him there. And he did lose to Poirier the one time he moved up for the interim title about a year and a half back. But I still think he looked good. He was still competitive. I'd like to see him put on a little size and make another run at 155. What do you think is next for Blessed here, Jeff?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I guess for now we kind of have to wait to see what happens between Volkanovski and Ortega. But like you said, man, if it turns out to be Volkanovski, unfortunately Holloway's already lost to him twice, so it's hard to make the argument for fight 3, even though we kind of agreed that second one we felt like it was more for Holloway. But if Ortega wins, I mean, like you said, he already got obliterated by Max Holloway, dude. So I would sorry. Let me start over. I would really like Holloway to move up to 155. I think there's some really interesting fights for him there. Keep him away from a man named Dustin Poirier for a little bit. And I think we're good. I would love to see him go up against like Justin Gaethje, dude. Like that would be an awesome fight for me.
Yeah. It's like it's a real kind of catch-22 because I don't want to see. I think the only thing to do is give Max a title shot at 145, but I don't want to see him against Volkanovski for a third time, even though I thought Max won the last fight clearly and got robbed there. And I don't want to see Holloway against Ortega again. If Ortega wins, I say like just give the belt to Max. Because we don't need to see that fight. We know what's going to happen. He beat the piss out of him, like even worse than he did to Calvin Kattar. Like, I don't need to see that again. And then have Max just give the belt up, and Ortega can have it back, and then Max moves up to 155. That's really what I want to see. Especially now, he looked like very depleted for this weigh-in.
Yeah.
It looked like he cuts a lot of weight, man. He walks around like close to 190 pounds, I believe. He's talked about moving up to welterweight and even middleweight. at some point. Like, he's a big guy. I mean, 5'10", and as you get older into your 30s, that the weight just doesn't come off as easily. I guess the bones get more dense or whatever it is. But yeah, that's what I want to see. As for Calvin Kattar, there's a lot of exciting fights for him at 145 pounds. I think the way that he lost knocks him down more rungs than it would have if he just lost like a close decision. But I still think, he'll be in the running, but he's going to have to come up with, some more strategies here instead of going in and just trying to outbox everybody. And we even said last week, like, it's going to be interesting to see how he does in a 5-round fight. Obviously, he has the cardio to go 5 rounds, and he can continue to fight for 5 rounds. But when he's going against, another volume puncher, and he gets that far behind the 8 ball with someone who thrives on momentum like a Max Holloway, there's just nothing he can do there. And it looked like he was dealing with a lot of stuff there. It looked like a broken nose. From what I could tell, possibly a broken rib. It looked like he was having some trouble breathing in between rounds. All those body shots definitely added up. But Holloway, man, just dishes. Those elbows against the cage. Absolutely brutal. Just a real statement of her performance. The most dominant performance of 2021. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that.
Yeah, but it's going to be a hard act to follow, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what a way to kick off the year. So what do you say? Let's move on to this co-main event here.
Yeah, Bill, before we talk about this co-main event, though, I just wanted to address something because it felt weird at first when I turned on the fights. There were fans in the arena. It felt odd. It was like, why are these people here? What are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think that ticket goes for, Jeff? Because you gotta like get onto.
Bill, I lost you. Bill, you're frozen. Kind of like Calvin Kattar was after taking some punishment from Max Holloway. Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Nope. All right, so while Bill's fixing up what's going on his end, I was really, really surprised to see fans there. And, oh, here you are. Bill, I was just telling our audience here how surprised I was at having the fans there. And then I remembered, this is on Fight Island, so probably the rules are a little bit different. Maybe not as much, restrictions as but
Yeah.
it was, people were separated, the seats were a little bit staggered. And Bill, to answer your question, how much does a ticket like that cost? I think it's $2,000 just to get there. Just to get to Fight Island. Before you're talking about like hotel reservations and fight tickets and, whatever you have on your itinerary, the 3 things that you can maybe get done out there. I say it sets you back at least 200 smackaroos.
Yeah. There's a couple of ways they could have done it. Maybe it was like family and friends of the fighters like they do for the contender series. Maybe it was something like that, and they just spread them all out. But yeah, it's not like people could be in the parking lot on StubHub like, hey, are there any tickets available for this? Like, this is something you have to plan well in advance. And they didn't even announce that there was going to be fans until recently. And yeah, you got to get to Abu Dhabi, and then you have to get to Yas Island, and you have to have a ticket. I imagine there's very limited hotels on Yas Island. I know there's the W Hotel where all the fighters and staff stay and everything. But that's got to be a pricey ticket, Jeff. But I guess all these people got their money's worth because what a show they got.
Oh, absolutely, dude. For whatever that means. But Bill, this co-main event, man. I know. Yet last week we were joking about how this fight would have been better in like 2011, but dude, what a fight it was, man. For me, fight of the night, Bill. But what do you think?
I agree. The main event was really exciting, but to me, a fight of the night has to be a fight. The main event was a masterclass striking clinic by Max Holloway, and he made it almost irrelevant who his opponent was. This was very competitive, very back and forth. I love the striking exchanges. I love the grappling exchanges. We saw some very interesting takedowns. Matt Brown in the first round with that beautiful body lock where he snapped onto Condit's waist like a snap bracelet and had one arm trapped and just dragged him straight to the ground. And then I think Condit sneezed on him and opened some scar tissue, and Matt Brown was bleeding for the entire rest of the fight. But that's what happens when you're 40 years old and you've been doing this for half of your life. You have a lot of scar tissue. I think what actually happened, and you were telling me this as well, was that he scraped his face on the canvas during that takedown, and it opened up some scar tissue, and he was bleeding for the whole rest of the fight. The only thing about this fight that I didn't like was the decision, and not that it went to Carlos Condit, but that it was scored 30-27. I thought that was really unfair. I thought Matt Brown clearly won the first round. He had that beautiful takedown, and he had 3+ minutes of ground control where he was avoiding the submission attempts from Condit, and he was landing some good strikes, and he had some excellent control. At one point, he had, Condit's left hand pinned behind his back while he was passing his guard. Just some to win that first round, but apparently none of the judges saw it that way. I do think the decision went the right way. Don't get me wrong. Condit definitely won that fight, but that first round should have been scored for Matt Brown. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's the consensus. Definitely gave the first round to Matt Brown, and it made the fight more exciting, dude. Condit came out in that second round, landed that really nice takedown. And when he couldn't, he turned it into a single leg, which was really really nice, and used that to take him down. Which Condit, we don't see a lot of wrestling from him, just because his striking is so good, and he's so good off his back that he's okay with letting somebody sit in his guard for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But man, what an exciting fight, dude. Matt Brown, for me, definitely won the first round 10-9. I had the second round 10-9 for Condit, so the third round was just so much more exciting. And, something that Condit did was just mix up his striking. He tore at the body a little bit against Matt Brown. And, dude, at the end of that second round, you saw Matt Brown taking some huge breaths, man. And, Condit is not – his top game is not great by any means. But just, carrying somebody else's weight around, Bill, this. Anybody who grapples knows this. It's gonna wear on you, man. It's gonna make you breathe heavy. And Condit, I thought did a great job of, using those elbows, some hammer fists in there. So Matt Brown, I guess, fending off a couple of those takedowns, and the fact that he's also 40 definitely was winded after that second round, dude. But what a great fight overall. Definitely go back and watch this one.
And not only was he fending off takedowns, but he even had that one reversal in that third round where he looked up at the clock, he took a deep breath, Condit changed levels, and he went for the takedown, and Matt Brown reversed it and wound up on top. I think that was with like a minute and a half to go or 2 minutes to go. Just so exciting. It was like neither guy was ever out of the fight.
Yeah.
It was a very clear winner in Condit, but just such an exciting fight, man. Just so, we could probably spend an entire episode just breaking down this fight and all the techniques we saw. That step behind trip takedown by Condit in the second round, that was really slick. A lot of people don't see that coming, and that's because a lot of people had their weight forward when they're standing in that striking position. That's why you never expect to be thrown backwards when somebody steps in on you. Usually, like you're leaning forward to brace for a strike. So yeah, that was a beautiful takedown. More of a sweep than a takedown. But yeah, really nice. And Condit looked good, man. This was the first time where he looked like he really wanted to be in there in a while. He was on a long losing streak, and then even his last win, he kind of squeaked by with it. But it looked like he was motivated for this fight. So I think if he gets another opponent that motivates him, maybe we'll see a little bit more of the same. We could get a little bit of a revival for the natural born killer. As for Matt Brown, I thought a great retirement would have been after the Diego Sanchez knockout, that nasty elbow that he put Diego to sleep with. That would have been a good time to bow out. Now, 40 years old is really pushing it, unless you're like in the heavyweight or light heavyweight division, in which that's like a rookie age, especially in Bellator. In Bellator, they're like, wow, you're only 40 and you're a heavyweight and you still have both of your hips that you were born with. But yeah, 40 years old at welterweight. I'm not him. I'm not in his body, but I'm 4 years younger than him, and I know how I feel. I feel good hitting the pads, and I even feel good, sparring rounds with younger guys. But I know that being in a fight is a totally different thing, and I don't know how comfortable I would be doing that. But I don't have like the years of competition that Matt Brown does. I don't have that need to hold on to that. So, if he feels good and his body's holding up, then, I guess it's up to him. But so who am I to say that he's done? I think there are some fights out there for him if he wants them to be there. But, they're going to be like more fights like this, like, guys who hung around a little bit longer. That are still there. So yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Jeff? What do you want to see next for these guys?
I'd like to see Matt Brown retire, dude. He's an awesome fighter. I love watching him fight, but I don't know how much his body could take, dude. Like you said, he's been fighting half his life. I think his first fight, he was like 18 or something. But anyway, dude, I thought Condit looked fantastic. I loved the switch you mentioned in the third round from Matt Brown, and I forgot that there was a switch that Carlos Condit did in the second round. He was halfway on taken down off of a double leg, and he was able to reach behind Matt Brown's knee and just tip him over like a cow, which was awesome, dude. And now you had Matt Brown looking at the lights. I loved seeing Carlos Condit's wrestling here, which I feel like we have not seen enough of throughout his career. Obviously, for prior reasons that I mentioned, he never really needed it, but I like that he has that. I'd like to see more of that, actually. Bill, I think you're frozen again. Yeah, Bill, you're definitely frozen. There you are.
Yeah, a little bit of technical difficulties here. In the meantime, I was pouring myself another drink, Jeff. I picked up this bottle of Russell's Reserve 10-year bourbon. I don't know, but he makes a damn fine whiskey. So this bourbon is really nice. It goes for like a pretty cheap price point. I've seen it for like $40, but then I've also seen it for like $33. So if you see it for that price point, definitely grab a bottle. For a 10-year bourbon, it's definitely a steal. If you're a fan of Blanton's, it has a similar flavor profile to Blanton's. It has that kind of cherry, oaky flavor to it, a little bit oily. It's a little bit spicier, like closer to a rye. But if you had a few Blantons and then you poured yourself one of these, you may not notice the difference. Very delicious. And I'm quite enjoying it right now, Jeff. It's a nice way to come down from this early fight card ending. I'm really liking this timing now because we're able to do the show on Saturday night. And Mark wanted to point out that Khabib had his meeting with Dana White. Did you catch this, Jeff?
Oh no, this is news to me. Go ahead, lay it on me.
Yeah, so Khabib had a meeting with Dana White yesterday. They went behind closed doors, and Dana just put on his Instagram like him closing the door with Khabib in the room. And basically what Khabib told him was he has accomplished everything that he wants to in the sport, and he doesn't think he'll fight again. But he thought Charles Oliveira was so impressive against Tony Ferguson that I guess that made him feel like if something exciting happens in the main event or the co-main event next Saturday night, that may make him want to, get up and fight the winner of either McGregor and Poirier or Michael Chandler and Dan Hooker. Like if somebody looks so good and so dominant, it may want him to come out of retirement, which, technically he's still in the USADA pool. Technically he's still the lightweight champion. He hasn't been stripped. So I guess we just have to wait and see what happens next week to know, what the future of Khabib is. But that's it. That's the news, Jeff. So what's your reaction to that?
Bill, this is the dream, dude. Listen, all I want is for Khabib to go 30-0, and I want his 30th win to be against Michael Chandler. That needs to happen. Like if that happens, I'm good. Like, like if a meteor hits the earth, I've made my peace with God, so I'd be good as long as I got to see Khabib versus Michael Chandler.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the same boat. Like the Michael Chandler fight is the only one that really interests me out of the four because we saw him against Conor. We know how that went. We saw him against Poirier. That went even worse. We know how it would go against Dan Hooker, and I think Dan Hooker is the least likely of the four to get that match anyway. Michael Chandler is the only one that's a little bit interesting because he's got great knockout power and he's got such great wrestling that he actually uses. We were making the same argument for Justin Gaethje in the lead up to that fight. He's got such great wrestling. But he never uses it. Who knows if he even trains it anymore? We know Michael Chandler wrestles regularly. So Khabib would have a hard time getting Chandler down. And, who knows? Michael Chandler might even be able to take Khabib down. But, there's a lot of what ifs in that scenario. We're going to have to see how Chandler reacts to making his UFC debut, doing it on Fight Island in Abu Dhabi, doing it against, a top 5 guy in Dan Hooker, and being able to look dominant enough to make Khabib go, wow, I need to fight that guy. I wouldn't put my money on Khabib fighting again. I think the GSP thing is long gone. I don't think GSP is interested in fighting anymore at this point. So it's really going to take a lot. Like Chandler's going to have to murder Dan Hooker in the octagon next week. I think to get Khabib off the couch. He's got to make the man break a promise he made to his mother. So I don't know. There's not a man alive that's scary enough to me to make me break a promise to my mother. So I can only imagine that Khabib feels the same way. Well, what do you think, Jeff?
Yeah. I think that speaks volumes. And yeah, dude, I agree. I think the GSP fight's kind of off the table at this point. But yeah, dude, I love to see Khabib fight Michael Chandler, but that's really the only thing I want to see. Other than that, I don't know about Charles Oliveira. Don't get me wrong. He was fantastic against Tony Ferguson. And, got a reaction out of Khabib. That's awesome. But, like you said, I don't know. Khabib is a man of his word. And like you said, he's accomplished everything in this sport. Never lost, won the UFC championship, which, that's our Super Bowl. So, yeah, I think I wouldn't put my money on seeing Khabib in that cage again from a fighting standpoint. I wouldn't see him. I doubt we'll see him in the cage with the 4-ounce gloves on. But, anything could happen. So there's definitely some hope. But, I wouldn't I wouldn't bet any money on it.
Yeah, maybe he won't be with 4-ounce gloves on. Maybe he'll gamble all his money away and end up in bare knuckle boxing.
That could happen too, although, he seems a little bit more frugal than that.
Yeah, I don't see that guy spending through like the tens of millions of dollars he's made in his lifetime. He seems like he lives a very humble lifestyle. In any case, let's get through the rest of this card. Jingliang Li looking fantastic against Santiago Ponzinibbio, and this is a couple of fights that we saw this in where guys were moving their heads backwards to evade punches, and that's something that you really shouldn't do, because all you have to do when you pick up on the fact that a guy is doing that is step through on your punches, and that's what Lee did. Ponzinibbio missed big on the punch, and then he went to move his head back, so Lee threw 2 shots and stepped through on the second shot and put Ponzinibbio out cold. It was really unfortunate. I really didn't know how to feel about this one. I was happy for Lee to see him get, that high profile knockout, but I was upset for Ponzinibbio, because here's a guy who had really climbed a ladder and then disappeared into obscurity, didn't fight for 2 years. And now he gets knocked way down the ladder, and such a talented guy. And it looked like he just didn't have his timing in there, and Lee was throwing it off a little bit. He's moving his hands around a lot. And he really capitalized on the one mistake that Ponzinibbio made in that first round. Give me your thoughts, Jeff.
Yeah, dude. I'm in the same boat. It's bittersweet. I'm a fan of both of these guys. And Santiago Ponzinibbio was on a tear before that hiatus, dude. I think he strung 4 or 5 wins together against some really stiff competition. And, that time away from the cage, I don't think it did him too well. He looked like he was – actually, both of them kind of looked like they were just looking for that one knockout shot. And Li Jingliang got to it first, dude. And take nothing away from Li Jingliang. He looked fantastic. Was able to read that head movement, and just threw this big swinging left hand, just swung for the fences, because he knew that that Ponzinibbio's head would be back there to make contact.
Mm-hmm.
And when it did, man, he went down like a ton of bricks, bro. And Ponzinibbio got up. He was a little upset, but I thought the stoppage was more than justified. And Li Jingliang, he looked great in there and just got a huge feather in his cap, dude. Santiago Ponzinibbio is no walk in the park. So good for Li Jingliang. I think he's going to probably move up a little bit in the rankings, but I don't know what you do with Santiago Ponzinibbio, dude, because, the guys who are now closer to his ranking, he already beat those guys.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, he's going to need to take a little time off from a knockout like that anyway. It was a pretty bad one. At first I thought it was an early stoppage, but then I rewatched it and I was like, man, Jason Herzog really made the right call there. I kind of wish he was reffing that main event. We would have had a 2-round main event. But in any case, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Santiago Ponzinibbio. He may have to, refight one of those guys. If one of those guys that he's already beaten is on a few fight win streak, that's what he's going to have to do to climb the ladder again. And Lee definitely, pole vaults up to the top of this division now. He's going to have to fight like a top 5 guy next. So that'll be interesting. There's a lot of people tied up right now. I know Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal were supposed to fight, but it seems like nothing's booked yet. So I don't know what's going on there. And just in case anybody's confused with the name thing, because Jeff, you're saying Li Jingliang and I'm saying Jingliang Li. So on the UFC broadcast for the Asian fighters, they say the surname first because that's what they do in Asia. So Li is his last name and Jingliang is his first name, but in Asia they say it backwards. The reason I say it with his first name first is because back in the Pride days, when the American fighters would go fight in Japan, they would say the surname first. They would say like Liddell Chuck. So I just stick with, the way we broadcast the names, and I say the first name first and the surname second. There's no right or wrong way. Just my weird brain likes to have consistency. And I think like, well, when American fighters fight in Asia, then they have their surname announced first. So when Asian fighters fight in America, I'll say their surname last because that's the way we say it here. So just wanted to clear that up.
Oh yeah, it's totally a cultural thing. But yeah, I mean, I think it's out of respect for the family's name that they do that in Asia. I think South Africa does that too. Or am I thinking? There's a couple of African countries that do that as well. Just from watching soccer from other countries. But yeah, I for those of you wondering, that's why I do it. Just as a cultural thing. But yeah, his last name is Lee, first name Jingliang, and I'm sure Santiago Ponzinibbio is going to remember the name.
Yeah, he very well might. There's no respect on first names in the United States, especially in my family. I'm Bill, my dad's Bill, his dad's Bill, and his dad's Bill. So it's like it doesn't even matter.
It does get confusing at reunions though, Bill, because this one time your mom was asking for Bill, and I thought she meant you, so I was like, he's right there. And then she was like, no, I'm asking about my Bill. So
yeah, it's funny because when I was growing up, everybody would have like a different tone. Like my grandmother and my mom, like you could tell who they were asking for. And when I was growing up, I was Billy until I was old enough to grow a beard. Then you can't be Billy anymore. It's just, you can't be like an adult named Billy unless you're Billy Joel. He's famous. He could do whatever he wants. But yeah, even when I got a little older, like if my grandmother or my mom were calling Billy, you could tell by the way they were calling, like who they wanted. But yeah, I could see how that would be confusing for anybody outside our family. We got Colombia in the house, Jeff. So that's exciting.
Oh. Well, saludos. That means greetings in Spanish, Bill.
Yeah, I know at least that much, Jeff.
I know, but I'm educating them. Everybody out there.
Yeah, but you said Bill. You're like, that means this, Bill.
How do you know I wasn't talking to your dad?
That's true. That's a good point. My dad doesn't know a lick of Spanish, so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, well, saludos, Antonio. All right. Let's see. Okay, so one of the most impressive performances on the card for me, and also a little bit concerning, Punahele Soriano, first round TKO over Dusko Todorovic. Impressive for the fact that he finished a guy. He was undefeated, and he finished a guy who was also undefeated. Both of these guys came off the Contender Series, I believe. Antonio doesn't speak English, Jeff. We might have to finish the rest of the show in Spanish.
Oh, crud. Well, I'm sure he knows what like knockout means, right?
Tell him to put the closed caption on, or put on the Google Translate.
Hold on, let me read the comments because I haven't even.
He just says no English.
Oh, he said thanks and no English, and then he's laughing in Spanish.
Yeah.
Antonio, no sé si puedes poner los capciones o los subtítulos para que nos entiendas.
Yeah.
Tienes esa opción.
What he said.
Yeah, I just said that. I don't know if he has the subtitle option.
Yeah. In any case, we're happy to have you here, Antonio. So Soriano, the fact that both of these guys were undefeated, he was able to finish Todorovic in the first round. That was impressive to me. But the fact that he kept going to the same combination over and over, where he would kind of come with that big left straight. And then this was the same thing I was talking about earlier, Jeff, where Todorovic kept leaning his head back. And all you have to do when you pick up on that pattern is step through on your punches. and and that's what Soriano did. And he wound up landing that a couple of times after he rocked Todorovic twice. And then Todorovic lost his mouthpiece and they had to dig it out of the cage. He then came back and landed that same combination a third time. So, yeah, a little concerning for Todorovic. He looked really comfortable in there, but he was also making a lot of, rudimentary mistakes. So give me your thoughts on that, Jeff.
Dude, this guy, Todorovic, he just looked really stiff in there, dude. I don't know if it was octagon jitters or anything like that, but he just looked really stiff. His striking, everything was like right down the middle. He wasn't moving around too much, but dude, Soriano landed some bombs in that first round. I thought that the stoppage was I actually thought it was a little late. I think the fight could have been stopped even sooner than that, dude. And I'm glad it was stopped when it was, because Todorovic went down hard 3 or 4 times that first round. But Bill, I got to address something here, because everybody who all the Spanish speaking listeners think that we're transmitting something. Like we're doing a stream or something. Para todos que están escuchando, no vamos a transmitir nada. Esto solo es nuestras reacciones a las peleas que pasaron. Pero si ustedes tienen ESPN Plus, pueden ver las peleas otra vez si quieren hacer eso.
Sí.
I have to let everybody know in Spanish that we're not broadcasting anything. We're giving our reactions, and they can go back on ESPN Plus and check out the fights. But yeah, dude, I don't know, man. Soriano looked fantastic in there, but Todorovic just looked really stiff, man. Like he couldn't. I don't know if it was the octagon jitters or being in front of a crowd for the first time in almost a year. But yeah, he just, Soriano just looked faster. And I would have liked Todorovic to have used his height a little bit more. Because it looked like he had a reach and a height advantage against Soriano, which he just did not make use of.
Yeah, I think that, that stiffness is just like, he's from Serbia. I think it's just like that regional style over there. You see like much stiffer fighters from that part of the world. And that's just the thing. I didn't mind the stiffness as much as the dipping the head back when he was being pressured with strikes, because Soriano was able to counter that with just stepping through on his punches, like he was saying. We've got a whole conversation going on in Spanish in the comments, Jeff, and it's wonderfully distractive. We got Peru in the house now.
Yeah, this person is asking if there is a fight now.
No fight right now.
Well, I'll let somebody in the comments answer that one.
Yeah, we're talking about the fights that already happened, but yeah. Jeff, as you know, mi esposa es peruana.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah,
this is true. Bill, she's never made a ceviche though.
She has made it for me before. It's quite good.
Yeah, although I cannot complain about her cooking, dude. Like everything she makes is really good. You too, Bill. You're the grill master.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Yeah. Oh, Claudia is a phenomenal cook. I definitely lucked out in that department. Went to culinary school, and I don't think she even had to. Just a naturally good cook. Were we talking about fights? What's going on here? We're talking about
we're all over. We're getting off the rails here.
Cooking and geography, and like we're in South America and Eastern Europe and Australia. We're all over the place, Jeff.
Yeah. But speaking of being all over the place, I think that's what we could say about this. I don't know if you want to get into the last fight on the main card or talk about this last fight on the prelims here. So, Bill, take your pick. Do you want to talk about Joaquin Buckley's fight or Wu versus Yanan versus Edwards?
All right. Well, one last thought about Soriano. The only thing I didn't like, I like that he was timing the head tilt of Todorovic, but I didn't like that he punched himself out. It looked like he was gassed at the end of that round. And if he didn't get that knockout at the end of the round, you know, he might have had a hard time going forward. So that would be my concern for him, and something I'd like to see him work on, where he's not putting everything into every punch. But yeah, let's talk about Chirico. I guess it was an upset against Joaquin Buckley because, you know, Buckley's coming off of, you know, two of the best knockouts of 2020. One of them was viral. It won the MMA on the Rocks award for the best knockout. It was the only award that you and I, you know, were in agreement upon, you know, just because we couldn't give it to anybody else. Like every other award, for those who missed our 2020 award show, is the episode last week. Please do go back and check that out. But there was nothing else for us to pick but Joaquin Buckley's knockout of Impa Kasanganay. So yeah, this was just, it was a phenomenal head kick by Chirico. You know, he got in there and traded with Buckley. I don't think Buckley's stock goes down at all because, to me, you know, he has the kind of style where he's going in there to knock you out. And if that means he gets knocked out, so be it. And I think that that's a very exciting style to have. Not the best style for longevity, but still, you look forward to seeing that person fight again. And that's what I look forward to with Joaquin Buckley. Chirico, I don't think will benefit as much from this knockout as he should, just because he's a quiet guy. His English is not great. He's not going to be able to build on this knockout a lot, you know, with the post-fight media stuff. And then everything that happened after his fight kind of overshadowed it. But phenomenal performance by Chirico. Give me your thoughts, Jeff.
Yeah, dude. I think that was a performance that Chirico needed. And you could see at the end, dude, as soon as he was declared the winner, you know, the tears were dropping. You know, he is somebody who, I think he lost his 3 previous fights. So definitely needed the win here, especially during this season of the UFC kind of reevaluating their roster here. But I don't think it's going to be enough. So it's kind of a lose-lose here because Buckley went down hard, dude. Like, you saw the leg bend back in that weird way. It reminded me of Crow Cop versus Gonzaga, the way his leg bent back. And Chirico, I don't think I think it's just I think he's a day late and a buck short on this one. I don't think it's gonna really help his cause for why the UFC should keep him.
Day late and a Buckley short.
That should be the name of the episode. There you go.
It very well may be. Unless we go with Plan B. Let's see. The last fight. Okay. A couple more fights I want to touch on quickly, but I want to move on because we have 2 fight cards to preview, and we're already pushing that hour mark here. Jocelyn Edwards with the win over Yanan Wu. This was a great fight. There was one weird thing that happened where Edwards kind of fell down, and then Wu tried to rush her, and then Edwards popped up with a double up kick. And that was one of the wildest things I saw in this card. But for the most part, I saw a grappling control deficiency with Wu. in that she was able to secure takedowns, but not positions immediately following the takedown. So, as you know, Jeff, I occasionally teach wrestling to jiu-jitsu competitors, and what I always try to do is like, here's a takedown to end up in side control. Here's a takedown where you end up in half guard. Here's a takedown where you'll probably end up in somebody's full guard, but you'll get them to the ground. You have to have that connection with MMA and with jiu-jitsu. It's so important so that you don't get swept right as the takedown happens, because there's a lot of momentum that comes with a takedown. It's easy if you're not anchoring your weight in the correct way once you hit the ground. It's fairly easy to sweep someone. You could have very good wrestling, but if you don't have that ground awareness and that reaction time immediately once you hit the ground, you could end up in a bad position even after landing an impressive takedown. And that's what we saw with Wu, where she was swept a couple of times after some really nice takedowns, but she just didn't know how to control the position once the fight hit the ground. And that's something that's really important. I think it's a small detail that her team can probably work with her on. I thought both of these ladies looked good in this fight. It was a competitive fight, but Edwards coming away with the unanimous decision, and I think that was the right call. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And Edwards struggled a little bit in the early rounds, but able to really come back in that second and third round, able to, like you said, control or regain position rather. And Yanan here, Wu, was, like you said, there's that like split second when somebody takes you down where their weight is not set, and Edwards did a great job of using that. Because, like you said, Wu definitely needs to work on, grounding her weight once the takedown is landing. But that's a really easy fix. Like once she learns how to control her top pressure and stuff, I think she'll be fine. But yeah, like you said, definitely a very exciting fight.
Yeah, it's definitely easier than learning how to take someone down.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely the harder part. It could be a matter of like, all right, you're really good at these 3 takedowns. All right, takedown A, you need to switch your hips and put the weight on the opposite hip. Takedown B, you need to make sure your leg is hooked so that you fall into that half guard, and that you frame and plant your hand so you don't get tipped over. Like stuff like that. There's small adjustments. Like, all right, you're good at this takedown, but once you hit the ground, you need to make sure you do this to keep your balance. So there are little adjustments, and I'm sure she'll be fine. She's still a young fighter, and a good win for Edwards there. And the last fight I want to talk about, Carlos Felipe and Justin Tafa. So Felipe getting the split decision. These were the 2 heavyweights that were just slinging at each other, Jeff, like one punch at a time. Like both of them were like, I don't think this guy can keep up with my pace, but like both of them didn't have like a strong pace. It was just like they were just like slinging at each other. I thought Tafa maybe did a little bit more to get the win here, but he did lose the split decision. It was very close. I don't know, Jeff. This was more like a bar fight to me. That like a very technical bar fight. So like
technical bar
like
fight.
They know how to throw punches, but they're both like, yeah, I'm okay to drive.
Oh man. Bill, I can't give you too much on this one because unfortunately I missed this one. This is actually one of the ones I was really excited for, but now I have to go back and watch it.
You do have to watch it. It's good. Ramazan Ameev getting a split decision over David Zawada, fairly uneventful. I thought Ameev did enough to win. It was a split decision though. And then we had Vanessa Milo getting the unanimous decision over Sarah Moraes, and Austin Lingo getting a unanimous decision over Jacob Kilburn. Overall, fantastic card, especially the main card, which is better than the undercard delivering and the main card falling flat, which we see quite often. But you ready to put a bow on this one, Jeff, and move on here?
Yeah, I just want to say, why is Sarah Morris still in the UFC? Like, dude, oh God, I can't stand her. I'm sorry, dude. She's not even a good fighter. She's 6-8. 8 of those losses are in the UFC, Bill. I think she was like 4-3 when she came into the UFC. So.
Technically, all of her losses are in UFC affiliates because all of her losses except one are in the UFC, and that other loss was to Raquel Pennington in Invicta, which is a feeder organization for the UFC. But yeah, Dana Light's like, we're cutting 60 fighters, and Sarah Moraes is here with her cheesecake face.
I guess that's why Cheesecake is her nickname.
Yeah.
Jeez. I'm sorry, bro. I had to get that off my chest.
She's won 2 of her last 8.
Fantastic. Let's move on to this midweek card here.
I'm just like, I don't know why I find it so hilarious that you made a point to shit on her, but I do.
She's just annoying, all right? She's weird. She's weird on the mic. Just get her out of here.
Yeah. And she's missed weight a few times, hasn't she?
It's from eating all that cheesecake. Yeah,
it must be. I mean, cheesecake is very calorically dense.
Yeah, dude, it's a caloric tsunami.
Anyway, we got a midweek card this week, Jeff, that I think a lot of people may not be aware of. Like they're just like, we got to be here for a week in Abu Dhabi anyway. Let's have a card on Wednesday. Who do we got that we can fly out here? And they're like, pretty much nobody you've heard of.
Yeah, dude. I don't think some of these guys were on the UFC roster before this card.
Yeah, Dana White's like, we're going to cut 60 fighters. And he's like, holy shit. Instead of cutting them, let's put them on a Wednesday card in Abu Dhabi. In all seriousness, this main event is pretty awesome. Michael Chiesa and Neil Magny. 2 really durable welterweights, 2 guys that are both really competent on the ground, both decent striking. I think they pretty much neutralize each other everywhere. I would give Chiesa a slight edge in the submission game. But as far as like grappling skills, they're still pretty dead even. Like if you were to ask me like who was going to get this fight to the ground, flip a coin. But I might lean towards Chiesa in this one just because of that submission edge. He has submitted Carlos Condit. He's submitted black belts before. But Magny's a tough dude. Give me your thoughts on this main event, Jeff.
Yeah, Bill. I'm actually a little reluctant to pick anybody here. 2 really tough dudes and 2 really big guys for this welterweight division, man. We've talked about how big Michael Chiesa is. He's like the same height as Daniel Cormier, who is the former heavyweight and light heavyweight champion. And Neil Magny, too. Neil Magny, I think, easily makes middleweight. So this is really going to be an interesting fight. Like you said, styles match up very similarly. Definitely, I think Chiesa is better at finishing submissions. But Neil Magny is just a tough dude, man. Former military. So he's not going to be tapping if he can help it. So this is definitely going to be an exciting main event, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Magny, very competent grappler, but he's not a big finisher. 24 wins, only 3 of those by submission. But the Haitian sensation, definitely one of the most durable guys on the roster. Very underrated fighter, I think. Then we got the co-main event, Munir Lazzez, who's 10-1, usually puts on very exciting fights. and Warley Alves, one of only 2 guys I believe who has a win over Colby Covington in the co-main event there. And then I'll jump around a little bit. Roxanne Modafferi, our buddy here, against Viviane Araújo. That should be a good fight. Araújo only 9-2, but has looked impressive thus far. And Modafferi, one of the most seasoned veterans in this 125-pound division. Araujo's coming off of a unanimous decision win in her last fight, but that was in September of last year. Let's see what else we got here. Tyson Nam is on this card against Matt Schnell. Tyson Nam has some very explosive knockouts, so he's always fun to watch. Lerone Murphy, 9-0-1 against Douglas Silva de Andrade. Omari Akhmedov and Tom Breeze. That's actually a really fun fight. And then you got Ricky Simone hiding out on the bottom of this card. He's fighting Gaetano Perillo. Okay, Mike Davis is on here as well at the bottom of the card, fighting the undefeated Mason Jones. And then the undefeated Umar Nurmagomedov. That name may sound familiar to you, Jeff. There's a former UFC fighter by the last name of Nurmagomedov, did pretty well. And that's all I got. Anything else jumping off the page for you here?
Nothing too much. But those fights that you do mention do sound really good, actually. So I'm a little bit more excited for this card. My only problem, Bill, is it's the prelims start at 9:00 on a Wednesday, Bill.
Yeah, I mean everybody's
9 a.m. just to make this clear, dude. And the main card starts at noon. Bill, by the time this is done, I'll maybe be done with work. So, I don't know when I'm going to watch this thing, dude. Probably not until Saturday.
I mean, luckily I'm my own boss, so I'll probably be watching this thing at work, which is nice because I'll have no distractions from the kiddo. Watch this in the middle of the day. Don't forget about that Wednesday card. But now let's talk about the most important fight of the week coming up that everybody's looking forward to, UFC 257. And that fight, of course, is Matt Steamroller Frevola against Atman Azaitar. My buddy, the Steamroller, finally getting back in there, barring any disasters. His last fight, of course, had to be canceled against Frank Camacho because his cornerman, Billy Quarantillo, tested positive for COVID-19, even though they weren't on the same plane, they weren't in the same room. And Steamroller had the antibodies test proving that, he had already had the virus and didn't know, and he passed all his COVID tests, still wouldn't let him fight. It was a big bummer. I know he was really down about it. But now he gets to get in there against Atman Azaitar, who is just a killer, man. We got the Steamroller against the Bulldozer. So German guy in Azaitar getting in there 13-0, 10 wins by knockout. So this guy's a killer, man. And he even has more experience than Frevola, but I got to go with my guy, Jeff. I got to go with the Steamroller here. I think his pressure, his wrestling, just his grind is going to be too much for Azaitar. And I say that with the utmost of bias because that's my friend and I want to see him win. And I think that's his path to victory. But what do you think, Jeff? What do you think about, in my opinion, the main event of UFC 257?
Oh, dude, this is definitely going to be an awesome fight. And Bill, I have a little bias too, Matt Frevola, friend of the show. But yeah, he's going to have some stiff competition. This dude has not been beaten in Atman Azaitar. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Mm-hmm. But Bill, the rest of this card looks fantastic, dude. I mean, there's no title fights on here, but I'm not too upset about that.
Yeah, oh man. So you want me to just go over the card and then you tell me what sticks out to you? We'll do it
Yeah,
that
let's
way.
do it.
So obviously the co-main event, Michael Chandler making his UFC debut against Dan the Hangman Hooker. That's a fantastic fight. If you're not excited for that one, I mean, that could headline any fight night as far as I'm concerned. Then we got Jessica I against Joanne Calderwood. They both have big followings of their own, respectively. Marina Rodriguez and Amanda Hebos. Amanda Hebos has been on a hot streak. Brad Tavares and Shoeface Antonio Carlos Jr. Then we got Sarah McMahon, Juliana Pena. We got Nick Lentz. I didn't even know Nick Lentz was still in the UFC, but I'm not mad about it because he's always exciting against the undefeated Movsar Evloev. And we got Nasrat Hakparas. You may know him as Kelvin Gastelum Jr. against Arman Saryukian. Andrew Sanchez, who has been looking much improved lately, against Mahmoud Muradov. Marcin Prachino against Khalil Roundtree. And then we have the most mysterious fight, Jeff. Matus Pereira against Unknown Fighter, according to Sherdog. What a mystery it is. But what's jumping off the page to you, my friend?
Oh man, dude, I got a couple of these that are like, hold on. I really like, obviously, the co-main event, Dan Hooker versus Michael Chandler. I can't wait for that one. I'm looking forward to Juliana Pena versus Sarah McMahon. Juliana Pena won the first women's season of The Ultimate Fighter. Excuse me. And Sarah McMahon, former Olympic medalist in wrestling, and Juliana Pena, no slouch in grappling either, a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Very, very tough grappler. I'm excited for Nasrat Hakparas too, dude. We haven't seen him in a while. Brad Tavares versus Antonio Carlos Jr. looks awesome. Nick Lentz's fight looks really good too. I mean, dude, up and down, this card looks fantastic. I think this is one of those cards where I'm gonna have to watch like every single fight on this card.
Yeah, and what's even exciting to me is that the main and co-main event are the same weight class, obviously. So if somebody were to fall out in the main event, we could get Conor McGregor versus Dan Hooker. We could get Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler. We could get Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor. We could get Dan Hooker versus Dustin Poirier. Any one of those fights is exciting to me. And I would want to see any one of those matchups in the future after this card, regardless of any of the outcomes. That's how exciting this division is. And then in the same division, we got Atmana Zaitar and Matt Frevola, which, by the way, if you haven't guessed, that's my sleeper pick for this card. Zaitar and Frevola. I have to go with those two. I have no doubt it's going to be fireworks. The knockout power of a Zaitar. Frevola is so explosive. He has excellent Muay Thai. He has spectacular takedowns. The way he airdropped Luis Pena in their fight.
Yeah.
He's just such an exciting dude. And I say that not just because he's my friend and he's been on the show and we've trained together, but because I truly enjoy watching him fight. I say this every time we talk about the Steamroller, but you have to watch his fight with Lando Venata, one of the greatest fights you'll ever see. One of the greatest fights I've ever seen. And I'll say that every time I talk about Steamroller. I don't care if it gets old, because that fight never gets old to me. But yeah, what an exciting card for this male lightweight division. 3 spectacular matchups on the main card. And then you could mix those 6 guys up any which way. And I'm excited for the fight. You could have, Matt Frevola against Dustin Poirier. You could have a Zaitar versus Dan Hooker. Like, any way you want to do it with these 6 guys, I'm for it. So it doesn't even matter if anything falls apart the week of. Like, you have 6 lightweights. You're going to be able to put on at least, one phenomenal lightweight fight. I'm so excited for this card, Jeff.
Yeah, dude, I cannot wait, man. And it kind of sucks because usually the weeks where we have like a card, I feel like those weeks go by so much longer because I can't wait for the card, dude. Like yesterday felt like forever at work. just because I was so excited for tonight's card. But yeah, dude, this pay-per-view definitely going to be very exciting. Cannot wait. This is going to be one of those pay-per-views where I'm going to be watching every single fight, man.
Yeah, man. For sure. I'm looking forward to this one a lot. I got to make sure I get all my yard work done early next week so I can get into these fights when they start. It's going to be prime time here in the U.S. That means they're going to be fighting in the morning in Abu Dhabi. So it's going to be different for a lot of these fighters. You know, they're going to be waking up in the morning ready to fight. So big adjustments. You know, they have jet lag and whatever else they're dealing with, and then they have to deal with fighting in the morning instead of at night. Or some of them just, you know, will keep their regular schedule. They'll stay on US time and like sleep during the day. And so a lot goes into it there that, you know, most people don't give a shit about. A lot of people are like, oh, Conor McGregor's fighting, let's watch that. And we love all those people too, especially those of you that listen to this show. Yeah, man. So we're well over that 1 hour cap. But you know, we had a lot to cover tonight, and you know, I think it was time well spent, except for those couple of times where my internet crapped out. Anything else you want to get off your chest, Jeff?
Yeah, Bill, I just want to thank everybody listening in South America, because, you know, some of those listeners can't even understand us.
Hell yeah.
And they stuck around. So thank you to you guys.
We just bring an energy that's like universally understood.
Yeah, and yeah, for sure, dude. And big thank you to Mark Fellows, also always on board with us. But yeah, thank you to everybody listening, and have a great weekend.
Yeah, man. So if you guys want to get a hold of Jeff, it's at @animal_Wilson, Twitter and Instagram. Before we sign off, I got to give a big shout out to Team Reaper, who does our merchandise. If you want to get a hold of him, MMA on the Rocks t-shirt. They do ship to South America, Colombia, Peru, El Salvador, wherever you're listening from. T-shirts and hoodies at our friends at Team Reaper. That's Reaper1, the number 1.co. I'll put the link in the show notes wherever you're listening or watching. So please do order one of those, or, you know, support one of the many local fighters they have. I believe they have over 50 fighters on their roster now that they're supporting. So they have a lot of cool t-shirts. They have training gear, training MMA gloves, jiu-jitsu keys, all that stuff. Our friends at Team Reaper, Reaper1.co. Big shout out to those guys. One more shout out to Russell's Reserve. Excellent whiskey has been powering me through this episode. I was a little bit tired tonight, but I gotta say, this gave me a little pep in my step. So maybe it's like a Four Loko whiskey, Jeff. It's got a little caffeine to it. I don't know. We're gonna see if I'm able to fall asleep tonight, and then we'll know for sure. If you guys want to get a hold of me, it's at MMA on the Rocks, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere on the internet. You can send me an email, MMAontheRocks@gmail.com. I try to respond to everybody. If I don't, send me another message. I will, by at least the second one, I will respond. I do appreciate everybody who listens, everybody who subscribes, everybody who likes the episodes, shares the episodes, all that good stuff. We appreciate you getting the word out there. We have a great time doing this every week. But until next time, cheers, everybody. Bye.